Today we're gonna be comparing van life to
overlanding.
Yeah, buddy. What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things. I'm here at Front Range Auto near Denver, Colorado with this guy. And if you don't know him, I don't know who's been asking us for a collab because it seems like every video I post, people want to see me make videos with Mike here from Last Line of Defense.
How's it going? I'm Mike from
Last Line of Defense. We have a lot of similar interests between guns and automotive stuff and gear and kind of like knick-knack gadgets, whatever. Do you want to
I just rode his one wheel for the first time.
Yeah, and you're getting a one wheel
I'm getting
too.
a one wheel too, so we're gonna do all these one wheel vlogs.
Yeah.
Not really, but maybe.
Maybe. You're gonna make a video on the pint?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. My subscribers will hate it.
I know, whatever. So we're here today just having a kind of general discussion. We've been talking about this since I've been out here. I've been out here for like a week already.
Yeah.
And we've hung out quite a bit. And the topic keeps coming up between the van and Mike's Taco. If you don't know Mike and you can't put a face to the truck, you've probably seen his truck all over Instagram. Probably the most like notorious taco out there right now.
Yeah,
Would
probably
you say
something.
So?
Yeah, I think probably something like that.
Something like
Not
that.
Not to toot my own horn, but my truck is way more famous than I am.
It's like a Gucci Glock, but a Gucci Tacoma.
Basically.
Kinda. But it's super functional too.
Super functional. It's a purpose-built truck. Now that it's wrapped in multicam black, it's like extra flair, I guess.
It's pretty cool. I know this is gonna be super hard to do, but can you give us a brief overview of the truck? I'm gonna ask you some questions about it as we go, so you don't need to go too into detail, but what is it, what year is it, and just some like general things you've done to it.
Yeah, so it's a Toyota Tacoma. It's a 2016 TRD off-road, double cab, short bed. Pretty modified. It's got CBI armor all around, Warren winch. Actually, I won't even name brands. It sounds kind of cheesy. It's got armor, it's got a winch, multicam black wrap. It's lifted 2 or 3 inches, got racks, rooftop tent, awning, lights all over the place. If you want like specifics, just come over to my channel, but it's a tricked out 2016 Tacoma.
Yeah, we don't want to beat a dead horse, but Mike's done so many videos on his Tacoma, and that's kind of where your channel's been going lately. You're doing a lot of overlanding type of stuff, or as you call it, weekender landing.
Weekender landing, yep.
And I like that. So you don't classify what you do as overlanding per se, and I don't classify what I do as van life, even though people are like hashtagging it in the comments.
Yeah.
It is what
I'm one of those people that's hashtagging it in the comments.
I'm gonna start doing it just to be like ironic because I don't know.
We were talking about, so kind of van life is like a trending kind of thing. Everybody likes watching van life videos. Even, I mean, I kind of like watching some of them too.
They're interesting.
And then overlanding is kind of a trending topic, but we were really both connected through guns. Like kind of, we were really more gun centric. You're still pretty gun centric.
Mm-hmm. I'm
like gun topic centric without really getting too much into gun specifics. But now we're kind of connected in this other weird way where it's like vehicle based explorations. So we got van life culture, which Talon doesn't really want to embrace the van life culture. And then we have overlanding culture, which I kind of don't want to embrace that much, which is why I made up the word weekender landing.
And there's nothing wrong with either of them. It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't want to take away from people that are doing van life.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take away, and I'm kind of speaking for you here, but you don't want to take away from the people who are overlanders, who are legit like traveling to crazy places and living it full time.
Yeah.
I've been in my van for a month, almost a month and a half now, so technically I'm
He's really a van lifer. He's a true van lifer.
But when you look at people that make van life videos, like this is full blown, like pretty much how you buy it. I did a couple things to it, but it's not like some people who go out and buy an old Westfalia or like a VW van or any kind of van for that matter and convert it or just live in it with like a mattress in the back.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take away from people that do that. Sort of in the same aspect that you don't want to take away from people who are like living as an overlander. People actually like live like that?
Yeah, so we were kind of talking about this too, where there's some similarities, some differences, but there's people legit living out of their rigs in the overland world.
That's insane to me.
And they're doing it, it's kind of like the van life world where they're doing a lot of traveling and stuff, but they're taking most of that traveling off the pavement. So it's gonna be a more lifted vehicle, a vehicle that's gonna honestly have fewer amenities for the most part, unless you're in something like an earth roamer, and more off-road capability. But there's a lot of differences also.
between van
life and overlander life.
So that's kind of what I wanted to get into. Talk about like your truck versus a stock truck, how it was when you purchased it, and how functional it is, like everything that you've done to it to kind of get it to a point to do a very specific thing, because your truck does very specific things and so does the van, but they're on different sides of the fence.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the blurred line between like van life and like an RVer, I guess.
Yeah.
So my truck is more purpose built for quote unquote overlanding, which is off-roading with kind of the somewhat living out of your vehicle aspect. So I wouldn't really necessarily call myself an off-roader because I'm not like a rock crawler or anything like that. I just want a truck that can go on some gnarly trails to get me to places that vans can't make it or Subarus can't make it. Yeah, so you got to modify your truck somewhat. You know, how crazy you go is up to you and the kind of trails you want to tackle, but you basically modify your truck to be an off-road vehicle, adding some recovery points and stuff like that, like a winch or some traction boards, so that way you don't get stuck, because ultimately you're trying to get somewhere. Like the focus is on the journey, but you're trying to get somewhere. You're always trying to get somewhere. Right. And that somewhere just happens to be somewhere that's hard to get to. So you got to build a vehicle that can get there because you're going to somewhere remote. And then you got to throw all the stuff in. So I have a rooftop tent so I can sleep in it. I got a little stove, little cooler, a refrigerator. So you're kind of having a lot of the stuff that's in here. You're just doing it way less comfortably, honestly.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like van life, and I'm using that term very loosely because I don't consider myself that, but
you just embrace it.
People who live the van life, they kind of do a lot of the same things if they don't have something that is completely outfitted, like my van. So this is basically like a rolling studio apartment. It's got a little garage in the back that I can keep everything. It's got a little bit of off-road capabilities. It's got the wheels and tires. It's a little bit lifted as compared to a normal Sprinter van. It does have four-wheel drive, which has got me out of some situations. But to get to places that your truck goes, it's basically impossible.
Yeah.
It's significantly heavier than the truck, and the suspension is not set up to do anything like that.
It's 10 feet tall.
It's 10 feet tall. When I watch your videos of like your truck flexing and everything, I'm like, man, I wish the van could do that, but it would just go, doot.
It would, yeah. I almost flipped my truck actually, and we were saying if that was the van wouldn't make it to there.
But it was close.
If it was, the thing would have flipped.
Check this clip out right here. Gnarly. That, like, when I watched that, it kind of scared me.
Yeah, it's some serious butt pucker I had going on there.
So my van and a lot of vans are set up for kind of long distance traveling. Like I drove 18 hours to get here, and I'm probably going to drive 18 hours tomorrow to a different destination. And I'm okay with that. And could your truck do something like that? Like, would you be comfortable driving on the road that far?
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the somewhat differentiators between like an overland built vehicle and like a true off-road vehicle. A lot of times a gnarly off-road vehicle isn't even street legal, so they're trailering it to the trail. Okay. Or if it is street legal, they're not gonna wanna drive it 18 hours. Mm-hmm. My truck still handles remarkably close to a stock vehicle.
I was very surprised when we rode down to the convention center, there was like no body roll. Like when we went into the turns, I was expecting it to be like all kind of loose, and it felt pretty much like a normal truck.
Yeah, it's pretty good, you know. I mean, I've geared it so it has plenty of power. It's, you know, quiet on the inside. It's basically from the inside, you're a little taller, but you might think you're just in a stock Tacoma. So my vehicle could handle it, not in the kind of comfort that your van could, obviously, but relatively comfortable. Granted, it is quite a bit heavier than stock, so it will be a little bit slower, but not that bad.
Kind of comparing them again in the terms of like livability, they're obviously built for very different things. My style of van is more like super amenity driven. Like I have everything that you possibly need in there. What's cool about it, which I like, is that it's complete 4-season, so you can be anywhere in the winter, your water's not gonna freeze. You got a toilet, you got a stove, a fridge, everything runs on solar. So you're pretty much set up to go, whereas overlanding, you're kind of roughing it a little bit.
Yeah, you have everything, including the kitchen sink, literally.
Literally the kitchen sink.
I have less. Like, Talon, you can roll into a Walmart parking lot without even leaving the vehicle, cook dinner, take a shower.
I cooked dinner in here tonight, actually.
Cooked us some mac and cheese earlier, and then go to bed. For me, how I'm set up, I can't do that. I couldn't really sleep in a Walmart parking lot. Like,
Right.
I would probably get kicked out. I have to unfold the tent. I'm out standing outside, get my water jug out to wash my hands. I wouldn't want to be doing multiple months
Right.
out on the road, really, which is really what like a true overlander is doing. They'll have a setup similar to this, and they'll be doing it. More
And
power to
that's
them.
kind of crazy. Like, I couldn't imagine doing anything like that. So between these two like lifestyle choices, because both of these are very much lifestyle choices, no matter how you look at it, it's time and money invested into doing something like this, whether it's purposeful or not. Some people live in vans because they
cool.
It's cool, but some people live in vans because they can't afford to like do stuff and travel like they want to.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like a stereotypical type of person. The van life is always like, especially in videos, you got these like beautiful destinations and like chicks in bikinis, and it's not all like that. I took my first like hashtag van life photo the other day in the ramparts, and I was like laying in my bed, I'm like, oh yeah, this looks so cool.
Out the back.
Yeah, and it was cool, but like that's not what it's all about, except Instagram and YouTube will make it seem that way.
Kind of glamorizes it.
Definitely like way more glamour than it actually is. So what's like the stereotypical overlander? Because I can kind of picture it, but I'm not invested enough to actually know.
So I would say stereotypical overlander. There's a lot of people that make fun of the overland crowd, like real off-roaders or real rock crawlers, or we're kind of like the wussy side of it.
Okay.
So there's that. But I would say like the stereotypical overlander is like somebody who's got a lot of money and is just throwing money at gear, adding all the lights, adding all this, getting the nicest stove, doing all this stuff. And while my truck like probably looks like that to somebody that's doesn't
It's
really
black
know.
multicam.
Yeah. It's all very purpose built. I added every piece to my truck for a very specific reason. There's nothing on the truck that I don't use fairly regularly. So a lot of times there'll be, like I'm a product tester and gear reviewer, brand ambassador, what products are getting thrown at me all the time. I could have like 50 more accessories on the truck right now if I wanted to, but if it doesn't serve a purpose for me, I don't really use it. But I don't know that a stereotypical overlander is like that. A lot of times they're just throwing whatever they can on their truck to make it look
seems
cooler.
I mean, you can kind of relate that to like people in the gun community. I mean, you get this
Yeah.
specifically. People, we're all guilty of it. You've done it, I've done it, everyone does it. You go out, you buy a Glock 19 and you do all this crazy stuff to it, but if you're not out actively shooting and training, you're not going to gain the benefits of stippling and an RMR and slide cuts and a barrel and trigger and all sorts of things like that. Same way, like I'm sure there's people, the stereotypical overlander puts all these crazy bumpers and lights and everything on their rigs, and then they never turn them on. They never take it into brush. It's just like set up.
It's like building a safe queen in the gun
Yeah.
world, except in the off-road or overland world, it's called a mall crawler.
Mall crawler.
Because you
Got it.
build it and it looks crazy and you don't do anything but drive it to the mall.
And another interesting point that you brought up is that it's a very it's super expensive to get into, like a sport, hobby, whatever you classify it as.
Yeah, it can be. It's kind of like the van life thing. Like the van's over $100,000.
This thing is expensive,
My
but
truck is expensive too.
Very
But
expensive,
Both
yes.
of them you can do them on the cheap. You could get an old truck and throw a $30 Walmart tent in it and do basically the same thing, which is actually what I encourage on my channel. Just get some gear and get out there, because ultimately it's about having fun. It's about getting outside. It's about going to beautiful destinations.
it's like car camping. Car camping is, to me, sort of like a form of overlanding.
Totally
like if you're
is.
driving
Totally
somewhere
is.
to get to that destination and you're sleeping in your vehicle, preferably it's a tent, but if you're there, I mean, that's sort of like the whole idea behind it.
Yeah, there's like a technical definition from like, one of the overland websites, which
Yeah.
is something like vehicle-based travel to remote destinations.
Four-wheel
where
drive,
The
vehicle-based.
journey is the object, not so much the destination.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it is. But it's a lot of like what van life is too. And the same deal like with overlanding, where you can have just like a cheap, crappy truck and throw a tent in it. And technically you can do pretty much the same stuff, just maybe with less comfort, less convenience, obviously less style. Kind of same thing with the van life, which is where
Yeah.
the van life culture, there's a bunch of poor people that are a bunch of poors, right? I'm a poor, so just
No,
don't worry.
lightheartedly.
Yeah, I'm not really.
There's a lot of people who are not financially sound, and they do it because they have to. I mean, this started like van life years and years and years ago, like in the 60s when people are like touring around trying to follow the Grateful Dead and stuff like that. It didn't really become that whole hashtag thing, which is kind of why I don't embrace it until the Instagram era and social media. So it's kind of a weird balance. I do appreciate the fact that there is this kind of overlap between overlanding and van life. I mean, regardless, both sides are kind of in it for the same goal.
I like the goal, yeah.
You want to go to cool places and relax and kind of get away from the everyday life, and the van helps me do that, and I'm sure the truck helps you do that as well. Yeah,
so it's disconnecting, and probably van life in general is a little more extreme to where a lot of people that are doing the van life thing don't have a home. They're out on the road and their van is their home. Overlanding, it's not usually that way. Like, they may leave their home for a month, 2 months. Some of these may go off for like 6 months, but they typically they typically have a home base. Okay. They'll typically have a home. They'll typically have something. Whereas a van life is like more disconnected, and you're just, my home is my van.
Yeah, and that's the kind of life I'm living right now, which is kind of weird. All right, so one last thing that we want to talk about is how we are enjoying what we do. How do I enjoy traveling the country in a van, and how you enjoy overlanding whenever you can?
Because it may come across a little bit in this video that we're like making fun of it, but I'm not really at all. Like, people that are doing the van life, that's rad. People that are doing an overland thing, really cool.
It's super cool, and we may be making jokes about things like that, but we're all kind of in it together. I really dig all this stuff. I watch overlanding videos, I watch van videos and things like that, and I watched a lot of that before I got into it. And it kind of helped me see the perspective of like what I could expect doing things like that. Like we mentioned, a lot of the stuff is kind of exaggerated, and you're not always like on a beach in California with like half-naked chicks.
A lot of it's like, glamorized for sure.
It's very glamorized, but so far, I mean, I've been in a lot of different states. I don't even know how many. Like I said, I've been on the road for a little over a month, maybe a month and a half now. And I get to travel around to cool places and shoot videos with cool people like Mike, and I get to visit family and friends that I haven't seen in a while, and it all happens without a plane ticket. I can't tell you how awesome it is to not fly places. It's good on weekends, but like, man, if I never fly again in my life, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, and you can bring more. You can bring your electric skateboard, your one wheel, guns, maybe not, I don't know.
Everything stemmed from me like living a minimal lifestyle in a hotel room. So now I just kind of downsize everything, and everything I need is in here to film and make these videos, to keep working and making money, and just living comfortably too, because of the setup that I was fortunate enough to kind of fall into. Yeah, it's just, I saw the opportunity and I had to take it while I can, and there's gonna be a lot more of me traveling around to come, so you guys can stay tuned for that. But what does overlanding mean to you in that same aspect?
Yeah, in that aspect, I really enjoy it. Like, I've always loved nature. I've always loved the outdoors and camping and all that stuff, to the point where I moved to the mountains. I live out there.
He lives way out there.
I live out in the mountains. But I like going even further. I just like getting away from people, getting the peace and quiet out in the mountains. So really, that's like kind of like what it's about for me. But also, I'm a hardcore gear junkie, which is like really good for overlanding.
Yeah.
It's like, I kind of joke about it. Like, it's like EDC, which we all love probably if you're watching this video.
For your vehicles, I never even thought about that.
For your vehicle. So it's like you're expanding your ED. You're like, I only have so many pockets, right? But my truck can have all kinds of flashlights on it. So I really enjoy the gear aspect of it, honestly, which is, you know, not really shameful to admit, because I think if a lot of people are honest, they enjoy that aspect.
Yeah.
But I just enjoy the off-road aspect too, just conquering terrain and getting out there. So I've always kind of had this thing where I'm like, I'm gonna camp in the freezing cold and just win against nature.
Have you done that? Like winter overlanding?
Yeah, I do some. Like in the snow, snow's on us and all kinds of crazy stuff.
It's gotta be kind of brutal.
It's a little brutal, yeah. I have some niceties because, you know, I'm like an overlander, so I got like a heated blanket and stuff like that. But I like conquering nature and getting to places that other people can't get to very easily. And that's kind of what it is, for me.
We're kind of like envious of each other too. Like I want to go to some cool places like you can get to, and I'm sure you want to be able to drive comfortably like 80 miles an hour for extended periods and go to like more places.
It's cool. You could just, if you want to stay in Denver for another week, you can. It's not really a big deal.
I'll take the taco, you take the van, and we'll just kind of switch lives for a little bit.
But we were actually gonna try and go camping.
We were gonna do it last weekend, and as soon as I got here,
sucked.
It rained for 3 days straight right over the weekend, and unfortunately Mike couldn't get out, and it would have kind of been miserable anyway.
Yeah.
I have to head out of town soon, so that means there's gonna be some more collab videos with us in the future. So hopefully you guys like this. I know you wanted to kind of see us shoot together, which we can do that eventually, but what I really want to do is take the van overlanding and take the truck on like a van life adventure. We'll kind of like go somewhere, try to get somewhere remote, and
then maybe shoot some guns.
We'll do it there, yeah, that'll be perfect.
Do some Sunday gun day. This was fun doing the video. If you want to see more about Talon's van, you can just watch his channel, obviously, but I did a full walk around.
We just did a walk around and it was pretty cool, so I'll leave that linked in the description, maybe in the card, somewhere around there.
And then comment down below. I mean, if you like this video, comments are always good, but like, let us know, because people always ask us to collab. And we see each other a few times a year and have opportunities, but we never really know what to do. So if you have like a specific collab, if you're like, I really want you to do a video on such and such, comment it.
I got ideas, and I can think of a couple. EDC, we'll do that eventually.
EDC we gotta do.
Let us know though. That's all that I got for today. If you guys have any questions that we kinda didn't answer, we kinda went around the bush, let us know in the comments down below. I'm sure Mike will be chiming in the comments here and there. If you have any questions on his truck, check out his channel. You can check out his channel in the corner right up there. He's got a ton of truck stuff on there.
Lots of truck stuff, yeah.
And yeah, even more than you guys saw in this video. So if you have any questions for me on the van stuff, let me know. It's kind of new, but it's gonna keep on coming to the channel. So that's all that I got for today. If you guys are new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe. I make new videos every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.